Howdy all, Left-Handed Glove here with another update to WeaponSwingTimer. We're moving into version 4.0, which brings a lot of updates, mostly in the code base, but some of them are visual as well. Big thing is that a lot of the visuals have changed. Well, not changed so much, but like the sizing of it has changed because I got into the stress test and saw that everything was absolutely massive. And so on screen right now, you can see what they actually look like in game on Classic. I've made the borders smaller because the borders were huge. I've made the default settings for the melee bars smaller, and I've also fixed the way that the spark looks, right on the little yellow, I guess, spark at the end of the bars. Looks a little bit more like the cast bar from the normal Blizzard interface. Another big thing that we're going to go into is wand support, right? So here I am messing around with the settings. I was trying to figure out like what wands looked like, because the modern game wands don't exist in the modern game. So I couldn't ever test them, right? So I had to level up and then talk to this guy and buy a wand off of him. And now I could see, like, the bar fills up, but it doesn't actually reset when it's supposed to, like it does for hunters. And so that was really good to see, because that means that I could reuse a lot of my hunter code for wands. So I went in there and figured out that I really only had to add the shoot spell ID and a couple of other checks. So this was after about maybe 30 minutes of me figuring out exactly what I needed to do. And here it is working. It uses the 1 bar option, but it works with the yet another hunter timer one as well, if you prefer that. And what else is there with wands? But yeah, it was surprisingly easy, right? Like I had a wand in modern, I could have easily tested that, like easily figured out that that was all I really needed to do. And here I am buying a second wand because I wanted to make sure that, like, it wasn't just a fluke with that one wand. I wanted to make sure that things would update as you would switch out wands, and figured out that, well, I mean, it does work, as you'll see in a couple of minutes here. But one thing that I wanted to note was, like, it is really hard to stutter step with wands, right? I didn't get to play all that much, and I don't play casters normally, but there's not a lot of time for you to move. It's like half a second, right? Like, I think Stay Safe had a video where he jumped and then shot and then jumped and then shot, and that was pretty much it. Another thing that I had fixed that I want to show you is that I fixed the first shot for hunters, right? So, like, you'll see here, I started my auto shot, but the bar didn't fill up, right? And then the shot left, and then the bar fixed itself. But it should show that first shot, right? That's information that can be vital, right? And also just looks ugly if it doesn't work properly. So I had fixed it, and that bug was caused by, there's a lot of complicated logic that goes into figuring out when auto shot starts and when you're casting aim shot and multi-shot. And auto shot was also triggering the aimed shot and multi-shot functions, and so it would reset the timer constantly. It'd basically think you were casting. And so here I've fixed that issue. Right, you can see, well, granted, right now there's a whole bunch of lag because I was on the Oceanic servers at the very beginning because NA got locked. But on this next pig, you can see that it was fixed. Right, there you go. It's a bit laggy. Video's a bit choppy, but I can't really go back and fix that now. But either way, it works now. Next thing, well, actually, not next thing. So here we go. Here's the final hunter bar. It's got text on it. It's got text. Well, it's got text for both the cast bar and the shot bar. So you'll notice that that text says 0.7. And the reason why it says 0.7 is because hunters' shots are incredibly inconsistent. I don't know what is happening with the code behind hunters or if they have always been that way, but the time between when you stop and when you start auto shot and when the projectile leaves your body, there's something going on where that time changes, right? It's supposed to be, in theory, 0.5 seconds, and it is not that. Um, and I'm going to show you some clips, and there'll be some numbers that show up in my chat box, and I'll explain them in a second when they get here. So the first number is my ranged attack speed. That second number, that 0.61999, that is the time between when I started auto shoot and the projectile left my body, right? And then 2.09 again, that's my range speed. And then, see, here's the 0.53. And then the numbers after that are the time between each shot, right? Between each projectile. So, we had a 0.2 or a 0.62, and then we had a 0.53. And you'll see here I have a 0.54, and now I've got a 0.62 again, right? The timing is completely off. I don't know what is happening, but the whole point of the add-on, and here I'm going to scroll through some more of these numbers. The whole point of the add-on is to make sure that you are not clipping your autos, right? So I wanted to make sure that when you stop, when it reaches that red bar and you're supposed to stop, that you will not clip an auto. And I feel like 0.7 is a good number for that, because I was talking to a couple of hunters like Check Your Six, and he saw times between like 0.35 and like 0.67, right? It's a crazy swing. I never saw anything as low as 0.35, but essentially you should move when the bar turns white, or when the bar's white starts filling up if you're using the one bar option. And anyways, so that's why it's 0.7, and now we're going to move into the configuration stuff. Alright guys, so now we're back in the modern client, and we're going to show you all the settings that have changed. Let me move the bars over here before we get going. And a lot has changed, right? Completely overhauled the settings windows. Well, mostly not completely overhauled. I just moved a lot of stuff around and added a couple of settings that people had requested. But I had made this nice logo, added a couple of filler images, and then added this like text to kind of point people in the direction of the other settings, because people were complaining that they couldn't find the hunter settings. So I added this little plus on the side so that people can now find it. You'll notice that a lot of the global bar settings are now missing. Don't worry, they are still here, right? They still exist. We just now have the option to individually change the bars, right? Because some people wanted to have their bar always showing, but they wanted their target's bar to not show, or whatever, right? They wanted the ability to change those things. People were also having issues with like resizing the bars. So in the past, what you would have to do is you would have to type in like a number, right? You'd have to type in a number, and then you'd press enter, and then the bar would update. And understandably, that is not the most like user friendly way to do things. So now you can just type in numbers and they will update the bar, much like what Domino's does, right? You change stuff with Domino's, it immediately shows up, which is nice. I've also fixed the issue with the color picker. There was this weird issue where the alpha was inverted, right? So like completely transparent on everything else, like on literally every other color picker. The all the way to the minus sign was transparent, all the way positive was completely, like, I guess not see-through, right? Completely opaque. But with my add-on, it was flipped, right? So I've fixed that. And there was another, like, someone else wanted to not show their text, right? So if they had a two-hander, right, their example was, if I have a two-hander, I know it's my main hand, right? I don't care. So they wanted to be able to turn that text off. Now you can. You also have the option to not show write text if you wanted to, for whatever reason. I guess if you wanted the bar to be completely blank, perfectly fine. Target has all the same settings that player has. And now if we go into the hunter and wand shot bar settings, it's no longer just called the hunter bar, it's now called the shot bar, because they shared a lot of the same code. So I just mashed those two things together, because hunters will never have a wand, so there's no reason to have two separate bars with two completely separate, like, code bases for, well, not code bases, but, you know, like, completely separate code for both of those things when they are so incredibly similar. So now it is hunter and wand shot bar settings. We have general settings, which is the typical bar width and all this other stuff. You can choose to not show the text, right? We now have text on these bars, as I explained earlier. And there's this nice bar explanation, because people didn't really know how to use the yet another hunter timer bar. It was not super intuitive, so now I've added an explanation. It's maybe not the best, but I also didn't have a ton of room to work with. If someone else has a better way of explaining it, then go right ahead. You know, you can suggest it. I turned off multi-clip bar as a default, because whenever I was questing, I was like level 5. I didn't have multi-shot, right? So it didn't really make sense to have that on there. So if people want it, they can come in and they can enable it if they want to. And then this latency bar, I need to make sure that this is actually working properly. It's for cast bars, like, it's for the cast bar on the shots, and I'm not exactly certain how latency affects those, right? Most cast bars have it at the very end of the bar. I had it at the very beginning because of, like, how I had to handle, like, how the add-on actually detects that you're casting a shot, because Blizzard doesn't recognize multi-shot or aimed shot as spells like Frostbolt. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there. But I need to test this further before I feel like it is worthy of being on by default. And I'm gonna actually show you the text with the yet another hunter timer. Right? There's not. I prefer yet another hunter timer. You can do whatever the hell you want. But anyways, so there you go. Right, counts down, and then we also have aimed shot. Right, now the bar reset there because in modern your auto shot goes off while you're casting aimed shot, which is blasphemy. But whatever. I think that is everything. Next big update is going to focus on multi-language support, and that is huge. That is massive. So it's going to take a while, and also Classic comes out in a couple of days. What is it now? It's the 23rd when I'm recording, so it comes out in 3 days for me. So we'll see when that update comes out. I kind of want to support multiple languages. It would be nice. It helps a lot with Europe, and a little bit here, but I think that is all. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.